far so good. Aside the small hitches that we have here and there, it's been good all the way, and we just hope that, you know, this momentum is maintained until the end of the elections for today.
Yeah, and it's safe to say that the attention that this off-cycle election has generated is obviously given INEC cause to really observe all the necessary procedures with, you know, due diligence to make sure, especially because of the bad taste of the 2023 general elections and how Nigerians are still skeptical about their performances. But if we can just start with Kogi, we just saw moments ago how you know, the civil society organizations that were responsible in keeping tabs on some of these developments, election observers across the state, are noting certain security breaches, especially with regards to access for election observers. There were some pockets of issues there that happened in Kogi.
Yes, a lot of people would say that, you know, there's not been a lot of orientation about this. But I think that as Nigerians, this is not the first time. It started with the Anambra and Osun election. And we saw how some people who were made to observe the election were harassed by security agents. And then we moved from that, we moved into the general elections, which a lot of orientation was given to security agents, you know, electorate, and also journalists in general. And then I didn't expect this to happen, you know, for a civil society organization who has been contracted, who is the responsibility to actually monitor the elections. Taking snapshots of polling units and what's happening there shouldn't be a problem, except if your camera was directed to security agents. And according to, you know, the explanation that was given to us by that civil society organization, nothing of sort happened, and it's kind of termed harassment.
We need a transparent election so that everybody can accept the outcome of the result. And you know, as I did say, some of those situations might be isolated, but it still does not, you know, speak good about some of those developments. Well, let's stay with Kogi, because over there we have a situation. I think we have some of the footages there. Military operatives on duty in Igalamela local government area of Kogi State intercepted someone who is reportedly the local government chairman in possession of arms and ammunition, as well as money that is purportedly to be used for vote buying. And that is something that has also played out. Something that was also noted by the civil society organization, that they are now paying as high as 30,000 naira per vote. I mean, inflation has done well to jack up, you know, the funds. You know,
there used to be 10,000, even as low as 5,000 before now. But, you know, they're coming in reality with the economic hardship and knowing that 15,000
perhaps taking advantage of the economic situation in the country.
Taking advantage of it, and then 30,000 naira. I believe that the people of Kogi State have shown a lot of demonstration on who they want their next leader to be. And some of them who have been in the poll since morning have actually talked about how they really want to vote. And the inducement right now has gotten to the minimum wage that we are maintaining in the country. And it's really sad that we're seeing these, you know, when we thought that the issue of vote buying has been taken care of.
Yeah, okay, a lot more to navigate, really. Let's bring in our in-house analyst. Mr. Kennedy Amadu is making a return after his much-needed rest. Mr. Kennedy, thank you very much for coming back.
Thank you.
Your 2 cents. You saw that press conference where, you know, Code is talking about some of those issues that they have observed with regards to the elections in Kogi. First of all, they did talk about some sort of impediment that election observers have had to you know, deal with security officials or operatives, stopping them from getting access to some of those polling units and taking pictures, which is, as we know, part of the recording process of you know, election observation. There are also concerns about some skirmishes in several parts of Kogi State. Those concerns have also been raised. Vote buying is also one of those issues that they pointed to as an unfortunate development that is marking this off-cycle election. Your thoughts on some of these developments so far?
Well, it's not something that we didn't expect. Nigerian elections have a certain character that they have taken up, and newer vices are added every year. So it's not something we didn't expect. What should be of concern is how widespread they were. Because if they were that widespread, then there will be that possibility that the will of the people again will not be respected. But I'm seeing something in these off-cycle elections. I'm seeing that nevertheless people want to vote their choice.
Right.
And so I think we're in for a few surprises at the end of the day.
Right. I mean, this is for the most part the business end of the election, because now you're talking about sorting. You're going to commence counting very soon, and this is where usually things begin to go south. Yes. in a way. Well, speaking about things going south, let's bring in Ajibade Praise, who is our correspondent on the ground in Imo, where the political parties are trading blames regarding some of those developments there about the diversion of election materials and more issues about low voter turnout. Ajibade, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the coverage. Give us an update on developments in Imo. What do we need to know about some of those issues so far?
Yes, right now voting is gradually coming to an end. I will say, though there was some polling units across the state. In some places, INEC did came early and voting started early as well. But then I believe that they want to extend a little bit time for those who are still going to be coming to approach the poll and cast their vote due to lateness. I believe this will be happening in places where they experience delay earlier in the morning. As to whether there was violence or not, yes, there were some pockets of violence here and there. The places we monitor, such as Imo ward in Ikedu local government area of the state, we experienced shooting of guns there. There was gunshots there, and the police were able to quickly arrest the situation. But right now, I'm in the government house polling unit where I believe also voting has also been concluded to an extent, and they might be going on now to start counting the votes. There has been some reactions as to over militarization of the process because we had a very heavy military presence. Of course, police have promised that because they want to ensure a safe environment for the election. Here with me, I have Honorable Durugo Enyena, who is the party agent of APC, and I want him to express himself as the exercise went in the state. Sir, come closer, sir. Good afternoon to you, sir. Can you please come a bit closer to me, please? Come. Can you please express yourself how the process went here at your polling unit? We are seeing a sort of kind of voter turnout in this process. How will you describe it in your own place?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Today is November 11th, 2023 governorship election in Imo State. My name is Honorable Imo and Bayelsa. I'm the polling agent for 002 Government House. In the morning, there was turnout irrespective of the presence of the police people, but people managed because they have been organizing to vote the governor of Imo State back to office. And when I asked few of them, they said they must not fail to vote today because governor has really touched their life.
Okay, but are you aware that some persons in the state are experiencing fears because there's too much of what we call militarization of the process?
Actually, I'm here in the queue as early as 15 minutes ago. Nobody told me this, that people are afraid because I'm here. Even to that time in monitoring the so you are just telling me now. But I know that those of them that came here to vote, they weren't expressing anything. They were all happy.
Okay. So how was the process? The diverse personality, INEC arrival, how was it?
They came in time. They started doing their work. People were happy. There was no up and down. Everybody was happy and calm. The moment they found people moved in line, started voting. So as an agent of the party, I found out that a lot of people were participating. I was like, okay,
Thank you very much for your time, Honorable Enyina Turugo. Well, that's Honorable Enyina Turugo here. He's saying at his own polling unit here, there was no problem, there was no apprehension of any sort, that people came and they did cast their votes as expected. But then the case is different in other polling units, I must say. There was low turnout. We witnessed low turnout in most places, especially where I went to at the Uzu Primary School, Uzi Primary School. That place is a very massive place where, in fact, thousands of voters are registered there. But when we went there to monitor, we noticed a serious low turnout of voters in that particular place. Coupled with the issue of the NLC strike, as well as a sit-at-home order that was also issued by this group of the secessionist group, all these with the heavy security, all this summed together create some form of apprehensions and tension in the state, and some persons decide to sit at home. That's the situation at the moment.
Ajibade,
in Imo State.
We understand that the parties are trading blame, especially regarding the hijack of election materials in Okigwe. Can you bring us up to date on what the police are saying? I mean, earlier you were there when the DIG was addressing members of the press. What is the truth regarding some of these claims and counterclaims?
Honestly, I would say I was surprised when the DIG was briefing the press, and I tried to put that question to him because I was in a place where some of this violence actually ensued. I turned in some video clips of gunshots where some persons tried to hijack both INEC officials as well as election materials. I turned in those videos, and I wanted to put that question to him: that how is him ready to, curtail these pockets of violence here and there? But to my surprise, the DIG he declined comment on such, but rather he said the atmosphere is peaceful. They've been going around, and it appears generally the process is peaceful. But then I would tell you, as a man who is on ground and who has been monitoring the exercise, we notice some pockets of violence here and there. And some of the candidates also in this race have also expressed such fears as well, that violence are ongoing in pockets of places here and there in the state.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
All right, Praise, you talked about a low voter turnout, especially at the Uzi polling unit, where a lot of people have registered their name. You said thousands of people are supposed to turn out to vote at the Uzi Primary School, but there was low voter turnout. What could have been the reason why there was this low voter turnout around that polling unit, in that polling unit precisely?
Yeah, like I earlier stated, from conversation with some of them who spoke to me off camera, the fear in the state is something else. People are afraid to come out. I must tell you, the heavy presence of security is one. The sit-at-home order by the secessionist group is also another one. People are afraid. People don't know what the situation will turn out to be. And as such, many of them decided to stay away. Of course, some of them who are interested about electing yet another leader or electing yet the incumbent governor to continue, they all came out to cast their vote. But I must tell you, Imo State election of 11th November is really, really, really not what a governorship election used to be in the state.
Right. It's very obvious that the turnout is disappointing, but is it also spread statewide, or is it just some select areas? And I'd like to get your thoughts on if you've heard anything about Ohaji Egbema and whether the turnout there is similar to all those areas that you've observed.
Well, I will tell you that the turnout of the election of today is generally same, low turnout. I will tell you, if Ohajegbema used to have maybe 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 thereabout of voters, registered voters, I want to tell you, though I've not been there, I want to tell you, not all of them came out to vote. It is general everywhere in the state.
Right.
Couple with the places I visited a part of Okigwe. I visited Owerri zone, virtually about 5 to 6 local government area within the Owerri zone. The story is the same.
Right. The polls are about to close, as we can imagine. Give me a sense of what the security situation is like, and you know, what are the concerns going forward, especially as we're about to witness the commencement of sorting and counting.
Yeah, security situation in Imo State is very, very, very peaceful, I would say. Nobody wants to cause trouble. In fact, you cannot even look at the presence of the security in the state and yet try to foment any trouble. Everybody is trying to stay safe, looking at the number of police that was deployed into the state. Over 25,000 policemen are in the state, exclusive on ground already. And also the military also have their, the army has theirs, the Navy, the Air Force has theirs, the DSS, as well as the NDDC. Imo State, I will tell you, is safe. It's safe. It's right. Safe. Very, very safe. Well, okay. Talking about counting of votes and moving some of the results down to the collation center and all that, I want to say the atmosphere is equally safe. And very soon, I believe that will commence. Behind me already are some activities geared towards that.
Right. Ajibade, thank you very much for the good job. We'll circle back a little later so we can understand how the situation is developing. But thank you for the reporting and, of course, for the update. Ajibade prays there for us in Imo State. We're going to cross over very soon because Yaga Africa is giving an update. They also have eyes and ears on the ground reporting on some of these developments as we continue our coverage of the off-circle elections in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa State. But just before we do that, Mr. Kende, your thoughts on some of these developments, the low turnout. I mean, it's safe to say that we're not too surprised by this situation.
No, we're not too surprised. There's a combination of factors. Yes, the Imo people are headstrong, but the insecurity in the state in the last few months would have, dampened their morale. Unknown gunmen running rampant everywhere. Even security personnel are not safe from these people. Then you have also the strike action called. I remember earlier on in the morning, Ajibade saying that the state was in darkness. And so, these are discouraging factors. But there is also, I think, a determination among those who want to vote to present a leader who will lead them away from the present situations in the state. Let me just leave it at that.
Yeah, because
I will get.
of course. Okay. Let's just cross over now, Mardia, shall we, to Yaga's situation room for some update on their findings and what they have to report so far on the election process.
Accompanied by police officers, this is not acceptable. This was, however, addressed later, and the police officers deployed from 10 a.m. to their respective polling units. Yaga Africa also received a worrying report of manual accreditation of voters in PU 005, 006, St. Martin's School, Ejule St. Martin's School, Ejule Ward 003, Ofu local government in Kogi State, where the polling officials refrained from accrediting voters with the beavers and manually accredited voters. Yaga Africa calls on INEC to ensure that the votes from polling units where the beavers was not utilized for accreditation are cancelled in line with the Electoral Act 20 22 as amended. Yaga Africa commiserates with INEC on the boat mischief in southern Imo and Bayelsa state and commends the citizens who took the initiative to rescue INEC staff on national duty. Yaga Africa also condemns the abduction of an INEC senior presiding officer, SPO, in Sagbama local government and joins other well-meaning Nigerians in calling for the release of the INEC official and prosecution of the assailants. Yaga Africa's initial findings in Imo and Kogi states are based on reports received from 212 the 300 sampled polling units in Imo and 245 of 300 sampled polling units in Kogi and processed at 1 p.m. on election day. Additional information and updates will be provided subsequently. 1. The arrival of INEC officials and commencement of polls. In the polling units observed, Yaga Africa observers noted some variation in the arrival of INEC officials across polling units in Imo and Kogi states. Our findings reveal that INEC officials arrived by 7:30 a.m. in only 21% of polling units in Imo state, while in Kogi, INEC officials arrived by 7:30 in 64% of the polling units. By 9:30 a.m., accreditation and voting had commenced in 54% of polling units in Imo and in 53% of polling units in Kogi. Deployment of beavers. The beavers was observed in all polling units observed in Imo and Kogi states. In Imo state, the beavers had 0 records for the total number of accredited voters on the beavers before the commencement of the process in 96% of the polling units observed. Similarly, in Kogi state, the beavers had 0 records for the total number of accredited voters in the beavers before the commencement of the polling process in 94% of the observed polling units. Deployment of party agents. In Imo State, the APC, All Progressive Congress, APC party agents were seen in 96% of polling units. All Progressive Grand Alliance, ABGA, agents were in 29% of the polling units. Labour Party, LP, agents were in 88% of the polling units. People's Democratic Party, PDP, agents were in 89% of the polling units. In Kogi, African Democratic Congress agents were seen in 46% of polling units. All Progressive Congress APC agents were cited at 99% of polling units. People's Democratic Party PDP were cited in 82% of polling units, and Social Democratic Party SDP were cited in 82% of the polling units. Deployment of security personnel. Security agents were seen in 73% of polling units in Imo and 96% of polling units in Kogi. Secrecy of the ballot compromised. In Kogi State, the voting cubicle was not present in 2% of polling units. Deployment of materials. In 1% of polling units in Imo, indelible ink, that's the marker pen, and or official stamps were not present. In Kogi State, the official stamp was not present in 3% and 2% of polling units, respectively. Polling units not opened by 12 noon. 8% of sampled polling units were not opened in Imo, while in Kogi, all the sampled polling units were opened by 12 noon. Cynthia will take the critical incidents of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll share our critical incident as received from the field as of 1 p.m. The Yaga Africa's Watching the Vote Data Center received a total of 30 critical incidents, 25 for Imo State and 5 for Kogi State. These are the verified critical incidents reports, primarily concerning the late opening of polls. Some of these incidents include: 1, observers not allowed to observe. This is important for us because it also means an indication of likelihood of fraud when observers are denied observation. An APC party agent refused Yaga Africa to observe the election process in Imo Bosi Village Square, 16-16-12001.
All right, you're watching a live presser from Yaga Africa addressing some of the developing issues regards to today's electoral process. And so far we've learned that manual registration was used, as Yaga Africa observed in Kogi, and those informations have been put out there calling on INEC to do the needful to address some of those incidences. And of course, we are now learning more about some of those incidents that has been recorded by Yaga Africa. So let's get back to the press conference, and analysis follows immediately.
Polling officials requested monetary inducement before allowing party agents to observe the process in Umuchenta Village Square polling unit 1607-06010 in Antonerim Ward of Ihitel Uboma LGA in Imo State. In most polling units in Ehi Ward and Okesi Ward, Ogoromagongo local government area, and Aika Ohizenyi Ward, Okei local government area in Kogi State, INEC officials arrived at the polling units with pre-filled result sheets before accreditation and voting commenced. Number 3, unopened polling units. Yaga Africa received reports that some polling units did not open at 12 noon. This report cuts across 6 local governments in Imo State, namely Okigwe, Olu, Osu, Oru East, Oru West, and Owerri West. Specifically, in Community School Ikpatu, 16-19-02003, Ama Abaka Square, Umuokpara, 16-19-02030, Amiakpa Agbala Village, a Village Square, 16-19-03011, in Aguala Primary School, 16-19-10004, in Aro Abobu Primary School, 16-19-11001, all in Okigwe LGAs in Imo State. We also had highlighted earlier that a polling unit in Kogi, we had manual accreditation going on. That for us too is a critical incident that we believe INEC should look into. Our preliminary recommendations. In view of the foregoing, Yaga Africa's Watching the Vote makes the following preliminary recommendations. Number 1, we call on INEC to suspend elections in polling units / local government areas which reported incidents of pre-filled local government area and pre-filled result sheets in those local governments. So for those local governments or those locations where result sheets were already pre-filled, we believe and we call on INEC to suspend elections in those locations because that is an indication of fraud. The Commission should also arrest, investigate, and prosecute the individuals responsible for this electoral offense. Number 2, Yaga Africa calls on INEC to extend the voting time, especially in Imo and Bayelsa states, where the voting commenced late, to ensure that voters have equitable opportunity to vote. Number 3, Yaga Africa calls on INEC to provide an update on when voters in locations where elections are yet to commence will vote, especially the polling units affected by the late arrival of polling officials or materials in locations where this happened, especially where this was done due to the boat mishap, like in southern Ijo. In the location where the SPO was abducted, there were reports that some materials were also carted away with. So polling units affected within those locations should also in Savannah LGA should also have their elections, the dates informed to us. And in locations where result sheets were pre-filled before voting. We've called for a suspension of elections in those locations. We also need the time for when the voters in those locations would vote, because it's not their fault those incidents happen, and it would be unfair to deny them their right to vote. Number 4, Yaga Africa calls on INEC and security agencies to uphold the transparency of results collation process by complying with the guidelines on results management and ensuring accredited election observers, media, and party agents are present at all levels of results collation. Number 5, Yaga calls on INEC to cancel elections in polling units where manual accreditation was recorded. In conclusion, we urge voters to remain patient and peaceful through the voting and counting process. Yaga Africa will provide updates on the voting process as the voting process comes to an end and as the results collation commences. At the end of the election, Yaga Africa will provide statistically representative information about the conduct of the elections. The Watching the Vote project is driven by data for all Nigerians and beholden to none. Thank you, and God bless the people of Nigeria. Now, thank you. I don't know if we have questions or comments from our media partners based on this statement. One? Okay.
Well, that is the conclusion of that press conference by Yaga Africa on their take, their observation and analysis of the elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa states regarding the voting process as sorting and counting as well as collation commences in the next few hours. I mean, by design, the elections are supposed to, the polls are supposed to be closed by now, looking at the time. But of course, this is what we have to navigate for now as those sorting exercises commence in different parts of Kogi, where the election pretty much started as scheduled. And as you can see there, some of the pictures emerging from the state capital, Lokoja, where sorting is ongoing and counting is also ongoing in some of the polling units in Kogi. But much to discuss, especially from Kogi State, where Yaga Africa has once again highlighted the use of manual accreditation for persons in some polling units. And of course, they have given the direct information about that, calling on the INEC to cancel the process in those polling units because of, that breach in the procedure, which is obvious that, the last time INEC did allow for manual accreditation was way back in 2019, when you could use those incident forms, which have now been abolished, so to say, by the current Electoral Act. Mr. Kenny, let's get your take on this one. Manual accreditation, who would have thought that,
it's still beyond me, because is it that they're still living in 2019? Because basic, you have to be registered by and caught by beavers. You understand? Yeah. And and that data goes straight back. You understand? To the headquarters. So what are we talking about here? Are they now going to, because there are no incident forms. So what are you taking back to the collation center when it has not been, when that center has not been registered? I think maybe that it was just a way of stylishly disenfranchising the people who voted there. Right. Because they didn't know better themselves.
Yeah, because obviously this will all be part of the forensic evidence, because these machines get, investigated, and if the data is not there, there's nothing you can do about it. But also, in talking about the vote buying incidents, still staying with Kogi, for instance, what is at play here, especially if you look at the political atmosphere, where identity politics has now become the main conversation regarding what tribe the next governor of Kogi State comes, which tribe the next governor comes from.
It's very funny that in these elections, the three major tribes are, well, let me not say major, because, but three tribes are represented, as within the front runners or the so-called front runners. I know of two front runners, but you can put somebody there to add to the party. So the elections in Kogi State will take on that ethnic identity. But I don't think the voter buying follows that. The politicians will always take advantage of the electorate, especially of the fact that the electorate are in need.
In dire need.
There are some theories that political leaders deliberately starve their followers because they know they can't.
So this is another classic example of weaponizing poverty, isn't it?
Yes, it's weaponizing poverty.
And also in Bayelsa, we got reports yesterday how the state governor is actually distributing government's palliatives in order to buy the support of some of them. As long as this is, we've not gotten anyone to corroborate that story. But also in Bayelsa too, we're also seeing this vote buying skyrocketing from 15,000 to 30,000, and it seems like it's a uniform thing that is happening.
Anything to secure an advantage. Don't forget that everything starts from the cycle of primaries. And if you see what has happened in primaries where delegates are bought, you understand, why would it be surprising that to secure the elections now, you understand, the electorate will also be offered the same monetary rewards. That
why does it seem like it's a minimum wage thing? The 30,000 naira, pegged at 30,000 naira, which is also the minimum wage.
No, it's not minimum wage. The prices are going up. Don't be surprised that before, okay, the elections are over now, but don't be surprised that some people may have even paid 40 or 50.
Right, and we also understand that the lowest amount that was paid is 1,000 naira. So there's still a lot of people there willingly selling their votes.
But don't get it wrong. They collect the money, then they will vote who they want to vote. You understand?
I'm sure the politicians have gotten smarter in terms of trying to verify.
How do you verify? How do you verify?
Okay, I believe we have some of those pictures there from Bayelsa, I believe, where some of the aged voters were being aided in the voting process. I don't know. I think we have.
Yeah, I saw that picture, and I was wondering.
It could be a means of trying to make sure that
to make sure that
I raised the observation that is it legal that the aged people are, well, you could say you are assisting them to vote. But that vote already has been compromised.
I think the ad hoc staff, on duty should be able to help them do that. According to, INEC, they are not compromised, and they should be able to help them place their finger in the right.
The person assisting that aged person, was that person an ad hoc staff?
Right, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Maybe a party
sometimes or relative. But also in talking about some of those allegations and counter allegations, right? I mean, in Imo State, for instance, where the PDP and the APC are going at it regarding that question we posed to Ajibade Praise of hijack and redirection of election materials to a private residence for manipulation. In Bayelsa State, the APC candidate, Timi Silva, is alleging that the police has been compromised and they're complicit with regards to working with PDP. It's something that we cannot verify, but that is the allegation. But also surprisingly is you have a lot of supporters yesterday in Bayelsa, women who were calling for the removal of the Commissioner of Police in Bayelsa. So what do you make of these allegations? I mean, on one hand, you have people accusing the police of working with PDP. On the other hand, you have the opposition accusing the police of working with the APC. I mean,
it's the loudest voice.
Right.
You understand? At this point in time, both parties will accuse themselves of oh, APC is the one that is doing this. Don't forget that this is like insurance for the person that lost. To say that when the elections were going on, we raised the alarm that this and this was going on and nobody listened to us. And then it becomes, although it's circumstantial, it becomes evidence when you want to present your case in court to challenge the results of the election. That's one. Two, is also a way of stirring the people up, stirring the supporters up, so that in the event that the person loses, you have supporters that will follow you on your struggle to wherever you want to go, whatever height you want to go. You understand? To reclaim your mandate.
All right. This matter is not peculiar to Bayelsa alone. Prior to the election, we saw that in Kogi, where residents were calling for the removal of the commissioner there, that they're working with the APC. However, let's get our Bayelsa correspondent on the line and see how this is taking shape and give us more insight on all of this. Friday Peter is on the line. Let's get your thoughts about all of this. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
All right, Friday, thank you so much for the good work. What's the development right now in Bayelsa State now that collation and rounding up, sorting and collation is about to begin, or has it begun?
Right now, we are heading to the collation center in the Brass local government.
Right, go ahead, Friday. We can hear you.
Yeah, we're election thinking like in that of what 4 polling unit 4 election is over, and they are about to go to the collation center for more public.
Right. Friday, we're just talking about the comments of the APC candidate about some sort of collusion between the police and the PDP. Has there been a reaction from either the police or the PDP about this allegation?
Okay, there's no reaction yet from the police. But after now, in a few minutes from now, I will call the PRO to get more updates on that.
Right. What about those areas? I think it's in Sabama or one of those areas where the boat capsize affected the process today. What has INEC said about when they're likely going to conduct the election in those affected polling units?
I've not gotten any information about that yet. But due to where I am, the network is bad there in Brad.
Right.
But I hope to get more information soon regarding the votes that capsized from INEC.
Right. And what are the people saying about this process? What can you tell us about the turnout also?
The turnout is good. In mostly all the polling units here in Ward 4, former Bragg here, the turnout is good. Right. And just like I'm watching the video when the APC candidate cast his vote, the turnout is good. It's okay.
Right. And the security situation, would you say everything is under control? There is law and order?
Everything is under control. The security everywhere is equal.
Okay. Friday, thank you very much for the update. We'll circle back a little later just to get a sense of the confirmation from INEC and the reaction from the police that have been alleged in that claim by Mr. Timipre Silva about some sort of collusion. Thank you very much for the update. Governor Abelo earlier was speaking after he voted, and he was alluding to the point that, this whole toxic atmosphere in Kogi is a creation of the media. I mean, I don't agree with that particular point. But also with regards to the comments from Yaga Africa about some of those incidents, they did talk about their sample size, right? 300 plus polling units. We understand, if you can just put it back, that data of the various states, the polling units, as well as the PVCs collected, just so we can get a sense of it. They talk about 300, polling units. That's their sample size. And it doesn't capture a significant percentage of the size of the exercise in some of these states. I mean, this is of course the breakdown of the figures regarding the voters, but I think we have another graphic that details the number of we have the polling units there. In Kogi, for instance, you have well over 3,508, or exactly 3,508 polling units. So I mean, 300 out of that is not a significant amount. I mean, it's not negligible, but it's also not up to
It's about 10% of I was concerned about the sample size myself, but it also depends on what type of sampling. Are they doing random sampling, or is it strategically spread across the state, so that we can now talk about maybe one polling unit in every 10 polling units in every particular area. That's what would make sense. But if it was just random sampling, you just push people out, then you might not cover up to 5 local government areas. So there's no feel as to how widespread that survey is. And it's how widespread that survey is that
allows you to make generalizations.
Yes, that allows you to make those kind of generalizations. I would have thought that rather than make specific statements, we report on the incidents, because the incidents give us an idea of actually how the polls went down. But we do not project from those incidents. That's my own idea about it.
Okay, let's talk about the security concerns now, and also the police on ground. We're actually talking about that before we brought in Peter from Bayelsa. Now, there've been some kind of indictment on the part of the police, and like I said, it wasn't peculiar to Bayelsa. Also Kogi, the resident of Kogi, was talking about the police has been compromised one way or the other. Now, should we be talking about getting into a space where if there are elections happening in a particular state, police in that environment should be deployed to other states, so we don't have talks about police working in hand with the incumbent government of the state?
I think that's what happened. Police units were deployed from outside the states to beef up the security in the state. And the numbers were quite significant, because we're not talking about the entire nation now, or 29 states. We're talking about 3 states. While it's good to report the incidents and reach some conclusions, I think it would be unfair to rely on the words of politicians to indict the police, because politicians themselves cannot be trusted. Anything to secure an advantage. Having said that, the challenges of covering the polling units themselves should also be recognized. You have policemen that are not wielding weapons covering polling units. I think I raised it in the morning when we spoke. So if there are going to be incidents, there's the perimeter within the polling stations in which you can't carry weapons.
There's about 100.
So if anybody breaches that perimeter, there's very little you can do, unless there is a secure perimeter around that cannot be breached. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but once criminal elements breach that perimeter and enter within that space, then you find it very difficult for a policeman that is unarmed to confront armed persons.
I mean, I know we spoke about elections starting peacefully sometimes in Nigeria, but you know, we get to midday when the polls are closing, when sorting begins and counting begins and collation begins. That's when trouble begins to brew. I mean, what is your sense of what we've seen so far? And for people who believe that it's fair to categorically say that while we have isolated incidents, this particular exercise is not looking bad at the moment.
No, it's not. Let's not forget that incidents go hand in hand with elections. Even the election that was declared the freest and fairest, I think that was 1993, also had incidents. The basic thing is to look beyond those incidents and then reach a consensus that the election was either good or bad. Did INEC comply with the rules of the game? Did politicians comply with the rules of the game? How was security? There are a lot of issues that bind together that makes us come to the point of certifying whether this election was good and certifying whether it was bad. Don't forget, beyond this, we're now also going to talk about when the elections, so we haven't reached a point now to even make a conclusion. When the election results start coming out, then there will be a lot more noise because those that have lost will now come out. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. People that lose out on elections will always say that election was not proper.
Yeah, I mean, from Kogi, we were learning a little earlier that there were concerns about fake results circulating on social media.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, we've seen a significant activity in that direction just a few months ago in the conduct of the 2023 general elections. I mean, what does INEC need to do? What does the media also need to do to not be a part of this? I know a large percentage of it is happening on new media and, you know, social media platforms, but what do we need to do to ascertain, you know, what to do about results declaration, for instance?
Now, don't come for my head on this, because we are all in the same profession. That's where the point of regulating media, that bill regulating media, comes in. You understand? There's got to be some point at which we set the boundaries and set the rules. Because if we don't set the boundaries and set the rules, very soon the media itself will become a laughing stock. Because anybody can go, the tools are there, go on air and, you know, announce anything. And they will say it came from the media. Right now there's that distinction. But the distinction is rapidly disappearing because conventional or legacy media are also crossing to the social media. But what they are trying to do is to distinguish themselves is to stick by the rules. But you still see some conventional media trying to drive traffic to their stations.
By reporting on unsubstantiated developments.
By reporting on,
so I would like to ask now, how would you rate the performance of the media since this election? You know, so far so good. Not just today, but, you know, prior to the date, 11/11.
The media has done extremely well in bringing out all the pictures, all the stories. What we need to do is set the boundaries so that when they are indicting media, they don't just carry all of us and put us in the same basket. You know, It's a profession, and there are professional standards which are being breached on a daily basis. People will go and say, I'm a journalist. Meanwhile, you know, the person has not stepped into journalism school for one day, has not been a journalist and reported the tough sports for one day. You can now sit down in your room, you understand, and analyze from your subjective position what conventional media is reporting, and then assume you are a journalist.
Right. And it's just to circle back in Kogi. I don't know whether we have it. I hope my producer, if there is any picture of that on social media. In Kogi State, there's one conspicuous individual missing. I'm not sure conspicuous is the word. Dino Melai, we don't know, we can't confirm whether he has voted or not. And there seems to be apprehension about that. If we have a picture of Dino Melai, please, you know, voted.
Maybe an evidence.
Evidence that he voted.
Yeah, but he voted because
did he?
I see journalists waited in his polling unit for a very long time and it didn't show. Right. Could he have transferred his polling unit to some other polling unit around his constituency?
Surprisingly, in the run-up to these elections, Dino has been very quiet. Not the type of
unlike what
the campaign we expected from him. And I don't know. And his party is one of the major parties, at least recognized major parties.
Right. Now,
is he a leading contender, really?
Yeah, for the PDP, yes.
You're asking the right questions, but you're asking the wrong people also.
Exactly.
At the same time. We can't confirm, however, some of the things that we know so far, that vote counting has begun in different parts of Kogi, in Bayelsa, and also in Imo. So the results may likely trickle in a few minutes time. So far, no significant incident to report, but also we understand that some of these polling units across these three states have experienced a not so positive development. But also you expect, just like you said, Mr. Kende, that politicians will always find a loophole to criticize or perhaps spread doubt about the credibility of this particular process. Speaking about the security arrangements that have been made so far, what is your reading of the body language of the Nigerian police on what they need to do to guarantee safety and security of not just the process, but of people who are going to be at the receiving end if there's anything remotely close to violent conflicts?
When the results start coming out, I hope they're prepared. Because in these three states, the stakes are high. And the political players are not playing. All of them are serious about this election, as could be seen from the run-up to the elections itself. So the police should have put in place measures to check the outbreak of violence in these states. That's one. And then the reprisals from outbreaks of violence or protests or anything that might go on. So which means that the next week, the security personnel that are on ground in those states should remain to monitor and maintain order. It just doesn't stop with these elections, because beyond these elections, then come the reactions.
So still speaking about the police now, we know what significant amount of violence that has happened in Imo State, and we have a DIG who has addressed the press conference earlier but not so much about some of the prominent things that have happened regarding violence in that state. What would you say to that development, actually? Is it something that, you know, classified information, just like they will always put to the general public? Shouldn't there be some sort of, you know, talk about, or some sort of response, so the public knows what the security agents or the police in particular are doing to actually curb or douse the tension of people of Imo?
Not speaking is part of the strategies of dousing those tensions. That at this election period, there are 3 periods that the police or the security agencies have to maintain. The pre-election period, which they have maintained relatively, the election period itself, which is ongoing, and we all agree that even though there have been skirmishes, they have not been widespread, and then the post-election period. And from experience, the post-election period is actually the period that has more casualties than even the election period. I'll give you an example. APC lost Lagos to Labour Party during the governorship election, and it took the APC
during the presidential election.
During the presidential elections, they lost the governorship
to the Labour Party.
They
lost the presidential election.
The presidential election
to the Labour Party.
To the Labour Party in Lagos State.
Yes.
Which is the home state of
the current president.
The current president.
Right.
Now, if the current president had wanted to stir up trouble, all he would just have said is just a simple statement. They have stolen our vote, and you would have seen what would have happened in Lagos State.
Do you think they care about the repercussions or the consequences regarding their utterances? I mean, the DSS talked a big game about cracking down on persons, political stakeholders who make incendiary or inflammatory statements that could whip up, emotions and perhaps lead to violent conflicts. Do you think they care about the repercussions of, making false accusations or perhaps, making statements that could really...
You're talking about the political players themselves. Yeah. Some do. I think when the president intervened in Lagos at that time, he had bigger fish to fry. He was looking beyond Lagos. And that's why he didn't make that statement. You understand? But we've seen some people who lost and talked about blood of baboons and everything. And you know what happened in Kaduna State. So the post-election period is equally as important as both the election period and the pre-election period. Because any, then tensions will be high. And any statement that is made at that point in time could trigger off widespread violence. And many of the people that will be involved in that violence don't even know why they are fighting.
Right. No. And that's the unfortunate part, isn't it? That identity politics sometimes could push a lot of people to commit all sorts of atrocities. Just to give you an update on some of those developments there in Imo State, Ajibade Praise recently got in touch with the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Frank Mba, who said that he cannot confirm those developments in relation to the allegation about election materials being hijacked and diverted by political actors in that state. But then again, that is something that has been making the rounds from the accusations by the Labour Party and, of course, the PDP in Imo State about some sort of complicity between the police and the APC. That is the latest that we have by way of some sort of response from the Nigerian police. But back to the IRF, I think it's something that we also need to keep an eye on. Mr. Kende, INEC has had to explain over and over during the litigation of the presidential election listen, we had glitches. Even during the election, they put out so many press statements trying to clarify what went wrong and why it didn't work. For most Nigerians, you know, the explanation fell short of actually convincing them about those glitches. But with regards to uploading these results, I mean, we now can confirm that the sorting and the counting has begun, and it's safe to say that in some polling units, you expect that the counting has already been concluded. The IREV, what do you want to see differently with regards to the challenges that INEC had to experience just a few months ago?
I keep on hearing that this is the time that INEC has to repair its reputation because of the glitches of the presidential election. And I agree. But also note that INEC has come out to say that the IREV is not a coalition tool.
That's
it is
resonating.
it's just to show the credibility of the elections. We've heard just a few minutes ago that there was manual counting. So
manual accreditation.
Yes.
So we'd like to see, we'd like to see what happens to that particular polling unit. You know, this is where IREV is important.
Exactly.
So that if there is an election result that is posted from that polling unit, then we know something has gone wrong big time somewhere.
Isn't there supposed to be some kind of punitive measures? Because if you're having to go through accreditation and you're doing it manually, while the law does not ask us to do, you know, some of this accreditation, now the ad hoc staff of INEC have been indicted. Isn't there supposed to be some sort of punitive measures? Because from past elections, you know, there have been mistakes from some INEC staff, and then we just sweep it under the carpet as if nothing happened. Though we've been seeing INEC being called as respondents in court, and we also know that some of these issues that need to answer in court comes from the activities of the ad hoc staff. Is it something we're not doing right to get the right people to, you know, man positions to conduct this election the way they should be conducted?
Just before you answer that question, just taking a look at the IREF portal, and they are uploading already some of those images. Some of them as have been up for the past 30 minutes or so. I'm just taking a look at some of those wards in Imo, and yeah, it's safe to say that they are trickling in, not in great numbers, but of course you can imagine the election, the counting is just beginning in most of these wards. So some of those few uploads have been concluded, and yeah, Nigerians should just perhaps keep tabs on some of these developments as INEC once again reassures Nigerians of doing the needful to stay within the protocols that it has set up for this election. So back to...
to answer the question, I think one of the banes, one of the problems with Nigerian elections from 1999 is that those courts in malpractices have not seen one person prosecuted since 1999. Seems as if after the elections are over, we go back, we reset, we go back to reset mode, and we say, oh, there are malpractices, your sins are forgiven. And that's what emboldens people to come back time and time again. Whether it be electoral violence, whether it be ballot box snatching, whether it be, adjusting results, whether it be falsifying results, whether it be going against the dictates of the electoral law, there has not been one person that has been prosecuted and sent to jail, which is why there's always been that argument for an electoral malpractices tribunal. And the arguments to and fro, there are people that say the courts in Nigeria are able to take care of all these issues, and so there's no need of duplication of functions. But like the elections tribunal, which has a short lifespan, I believe that there should be an electoral malpractices tribunal so that those that are caught, whether it be a lifespan of 6 months and there is an electoral law that establishes those tribunals for 6 months, let them be prosecuted so that people will have it. There will be that institutional memory that when this person did this, you know, he paid for it.
Shouldn't we also be taking a look at some of these politicians? Because yes, we cannot categorically say that some have not been arrested, but you know, these people are hired by politicians to perpetrate this forms of
we just
violence.
had the local government chairman in Kogi State, who was apprehended and then later released, you know, in possession of cash and firearms and things like that. And you know,
yes, it doesn't stop at the arrest. Right. The prosecution is key.
But also, are you surprised that he was apprehended and then released?
No, I'm not surprised, because that's the system. What the police should have done was keep him on hold or in holding until after the election. Not release him. I'm sure maybe they seized the monies he was carrying about, and they will hold, and the arms, and they will hold that until after election. But illegal possession of firearms is a crime. So he shouldn't be walking the streets. He should be cooling his heels somewhere until after the elections.
It's somewhere like, you know, behind.
In detention.
Or protective custody. That seems to be.
It's safe to say that, you know, so far we can track some of those uploads. I'm seeing 14.35% in Bayelsa, 7% in Kogi, 17% in Imo so far uploaded. And it's safe to say that we are on track to, you know, see INEC fulfill that commitment to make it as transparent as possible. But looking at our history, what are the pitfalls that we need to avoid right now that could change, you know, the dynamics of this exercise?
Number one, those election counting should not go into the night, because that's where things happen.
Okay, just before you land on that thought, we just have some visual there tracking some developments by Senator Dino Melaya, who is the PDP's candidate in this election for the governorship seat in Kogi.
To show agents result sheets, and that result sheets have been written. There's a massive protest in all polling units in Ogorimagongo local government of Kogi State right now. The result sheets have been, filled and tampered with already, and people are refusing to accredit, people are refusing to vote, and they are insisting that plain result sheet must be shown to agents in accordance to electoral law. If they refuse to show you result sheets in all polling units across the state, don't accredit, don't vote, protest and resist it. This is democracy. We must protect our votes. We must protect the process. We must make sure that all the regulations are being observed and respected. I call on all my agents all across the state that once plain result sheets are not shown to you before the commencement of accreditation, don't accredit, don't vote, resist it and protest, record it, video it, show the faces of these compromised INEC staff and security agents, and post it on all platforms of social media. We shall overcome. This election is a must win for us.
In typical Dino Melaya fashion, you know, what to make of this, really, because we're hearing conflicting developments there. Although, to one particular point, we did point out that INEC is investigating that fake result sheet that was making rounds, you know, on social media. Yeah. So it's safe to say that, you know, he's not making a storm out of a teacup. However, we don't know if it's a widespread or an isolated particular incident. Yeah, but you know, Dino Melaya being Dino Melaya, they're talking about those concerns that he has. Your reaction?
My reaction is feeling the pinch.
Right.
You know, by his own by his own
we still are not able to establish whether he voted or not.
Yes, because he's been spotted somewhere. It looks like in front of his house or some house in Kogi State, but that doesn't mean that he
went out to vote. Well, by his confession, you understand. He used to be a fixer for the elections, so now the tables are turned, and he's feeling the pinch. Right. While it is hard to feel any sympathy for him, you feel sympathy for the electoral system. Because if these are established to be true, then it means that we have quite a way to go. You know, and you asked me earlier so that what are the pitfalls we should watch out for. And what I was about to say, after I said that the counting and sorting should go on into the night, is that remote areas, there must be some arrangement or protection for the voter sheets, the voting materials in those areas. Because what happens most often than not is that voting materials from remote areas are the ones that get manipulated. Because the eyes are not, you know, unlike in urban areas and in popular areas, those are the areas that you don't have your eyes on the materials, and, you know, anything can be done to, you know, to manipulate those elections. Then, the second thing is that we must establish that the INEC materials that are taken to these areas are the genuine ones. Guaranteed genuine ones, so that people will not vote, and then you now find out that they wrote out the results on photocopy. These things happen in the general elections. They wrote out the elections on photocopied sheets, while the original sheets they didn't write on it. These are all areas in which elections can be manipulated.
But shouldn't we be concerned about Imo, for a state that has been in total darkness just because of the activities of labor and what transpired before the elections? Now it's to 4 p.m. and we're seeing that coalition has started, though there was low voter turnout. But doesn't it bring us to be concerned about how they will collect the result when there's no power there, and it might just lead to some
That's why one of my first reactions to Labour declaring a strike in Imo a few days to the elections was that, couldn't they have waited until after? Will those issues have gone away until after?
Could it be a distraction, though?
No. I mean, so far, you look at the IREV and you realize Imo is well ahead. And I think it has something to do with the fact that the voter turnout is really low. So they're not going to have much work on their hands trying to count as well as upload them. So far, 20.89% of the results have been uploaded on INEC's IREV portal. So if you want to check out those results,
the question to ask, those numbers, what percentage of the registered voters, how many voters, you know, actually cast their votes out of the out of those that collected
exactly. Okay. We do have Shafiu Suleiman, who is in Kogi State for us to give us some update. We understand that counting has commenced and a significant portion of that has also been concluded. Shafiu, it's been a busy day for all of us. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get some update on the electoral process. First of all, if you can start with, is there any confirmation as to whether the PDP candidate, Dino Melai, has actually taken part in the exercise? Did he vote today from what you're hearing?
If you can hear me, Abdullah, we're right now at polling unit 009, Ganaja Primary School here in Lokoja. And this happens to be one of the largest, polling units. In fact, according to INEC, this is the largest polling unit across the country because it has 13,000, registered voters. what is happening right now is that one of the boxes has just been counted, and of course the results announced.
The background, and a short while ago, the jubilation by supporters of one of the governorship candidates talking about Mutala Jaka of the Social Democratic Party. In this particular box that was counted, votes, and then the ruling FCC had 42. Then the Action Alliance, that is the AAC, has 1. The A Party also has 1, and there are 8 invalid votes. So this is the result. That is behind the jubilation we saw earlier on by the supporters of the SDP candidate, Mutala Jaka. Other boxes are being voted to be announced in a short while. But right now, counting is underway in all of the boxes that are in this polling unit, talking about 009.
I don't know if you can hear me. I can imagine how rowdy that place is because we can hear the ambience. But can we confirm whether or not Senator Dino Melaye did vote today?
Well, from the feelings we're getting, at 3 p.m., he hasn't come out for voting. But then I understand he's going to address the press. We don't know what exactly is the reason why he was not out today. But then there was no clear picture as to whether he's actually voted. But from what we are hearing from our colleagues, he hasn't voted.
Right. A lot of our viewers would definitely want to see the scene there. So I don't know if we can pan across the polling units just so we can get a sense of what's going on around you in that environment. And if you can paint a picture of what it is like to coordinate, that large number of people in that area.
If I understand, you are asking me concerning the rowdy situation here at 009 polling.
Yes, go ahead, yes. And if we can also see the scenes for ourselves.
In fact, it is the largest in Nigeria, according to INEC. It has 13,000 registered voters, so you can imagine the number. And just one of the boxes, the number of boxes that are contained here, or rather they are located here, has just been passed.
With 132 votes, ahead of the APC, which has 42. So you could understand. And beyond that,
okay, having some connectivity challenges with Shafiq.
A very stronghold of
Kogi State for us in Lokoja, and I think if I got his position correctly, is perhaps the largest polling unit or polling area where there's so many polling units pulled together, some 13,000 voters in that area voting and counting, as you can hear from the background noise and jubilation, the crowds reacting to the tally of those votes. Interesting, moment there, especially if your candidate is in the lead, for instance, across those polling units. Yeah, I mean, that's all that some politicians really, care about. I won my polling unit and things like that. But, from Kogi State, it does look like while the tensions were really, really high before the elections, some attacks here and there, the exercise so far is devoid of any significant, disturbance.
Which must mean that the security agencies did very well. In off-cycle elections such as this, is because there is the greater tendency to pool more security resources to the areas concerned. You see that security is often better coordinated than if it were the whole country that was doing it. So yeah, from what we are getting, we've crossed stage 2, which is the election period. Now we have to see how we can maintain that security in the post-election period, so that at least there'll be no casualties or minimum casualties going forward.
On the IRF update, 11.66% so far of those results have been uploaded from Kogi State across 409 polling units. A reminder, Kogi State has 3,508 polling units, so still a long way to go. Well over 89% of the votes are yet to be uploaded on the IRF portal. But also in talking about, receiving these results, or perhaps even talking about the elections. A little earlier we heard from former President Goodluck Jonathan, who voted in Otueke in Bayelsa State. And he was talking about the National Assembly coming up with some sort of legislation or reform that takes care of off-cycle elections so that we can synchronize everything at a go, saying that this is an aberration. And you can understand the frustration of most Nigerians who have to deal with off-cycle elections. What are your, thoughts about that? Because we now have them in 3 batches. You have your Oshun, your Anambra, your Ekiti, and then you have the general election, and then you have another off-cycle election. I mean, that has to,
yeah, well, I do agree with him. He's an ex-president, so he has seen things from a wider perspective. I believe that
he's now become a global champion of elections on the continent, also
yes,
an ambassador of some sort.
I believe that he's right when he says that, for instance, the American elections, when it's coming on.
Yeah. When your midterms are coming.
Know when the midterms are coming on, and those dates don't shift. So you are able to get an idea of the whole picture and go from there. But let's not forget that these are court-initiated elections. These elections came about because tenures changed, because some people...
Elections were nullified.
Court cases that led to nullification of election.
And all that.
And impeachment as well.
So it would take... probably it would take... so if you say you are zeroing out... there's no way you zero out elections without cutting short some people's tenures, what they are entitled to because of their fundamental human rights, and is captured in this constitution.
Yeah, but you can find an addendum or some sort of amendment in the constitution that unifies the process, isn't it? Should there be
a lot of governors had their tenures run out last year, and they voted in February. Now we have this set of governors coming on about 9 months later. So what would you say about the rest of their tenure? The 9 months they have to wait. Don't forget Ekiti, Anambra, Oshun, that are just starting their tenures. So it would take some kind of reset, complete reset, for us to get there. I don't see these off-cycle elections going away.
So do you also agree with the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, when he said that if we continue in this pattern, perhaps our general elections might be termed off-season elections? Do you think that Nigeria will get to that space?
They missed the bullets. Or is it the bullet missed them? Because the election that brought him and President Umar Musa Yar'Adua on board could have been.
He also mentioned.
Yes, it could have been nullified. In fact, to a large extent, the fact that the integrity of those elections kind of haunted them throughout their tenure. Because even the late president admitted that the process
it was significantly flawed.
So but we're talking about constitutionalism here. If you ask me, a situation, I would prefer even a situation in which all the geopolitical zones, the 6 geopolitical zones, conduct their elections at different periods, because that would enable all the security like we're having here because we're not reached the position in which, well, we are a modern society, but I don't think we've reached a position in which electoral malpractices would be subdued.
I would say that we're trying to be a modern society. I don't know about we are a modern society.
Oh, we are. We're just struggling, to catch up or reach the power.
And it seems that we have a long way to get there.
Okay.
I mean, listen, there are people who are trying to fix the table. I think Mr. Kennedy is trying to break the table with the idea of regional elections. Different cycles.
Yes.
But also for voters right now. I mean, Senator Dino Malai was saying something to the effect of protest. What do you expect from political actors who have a dog in the fight, who are either candidates or political stakeholders of any of these leading political parties? What do you expect them, what sort of message should they be communicating to their supporters right now so that we can lower the temperature? Because we understand that in all of these 3 states, right, the temperatures have been high for quite some time, and it has also been further heightened by the election atmosphere over the past few days, because you don't want to have protesters on your hand, especially when you're trying to sort out the votes.
Politicians are always trying to get an advantage. That is why their language most of the time is not decorous. It's always combatant. The more people you get to protest on your side, the better. The Dino mentality, and the Dino mentality is that is always has been about protest. Even when he was senator and his Senate committee had oversight over customs, he wanted to lead his committee members into protest. So his mindset, his mentality is the protest mentality. But politicians should start learning to tone down, because the country or the state belongs to all of the people of Kogi State, not just a small section of people, not just him or his supporters, but to everybody in that group. If you stir up trouble, and the whole state is affected, your state and your followers will also be affected. And that is the mentality that a lot of Nigerian politicians don't have. When Al Gore lost the elections to
George Bush
Jr., let me not call it George W. When he lost the elections, he could have gone to court, because he won the popular vote. And and he lost the electoral college. But in the national interest, he didn't pursue that case in court. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. So politicians should learn to tone down. Sometimes, like we have in Nigeria, the case of Goodluck Jonathan too. He could have called the election substantially flawed and gone to court, and there would have been a lot of trouble.
But that wouldn't have worked in our political rhetorics in the country, where a lot of people have the ideas that if you lose an election, to prove to your followers that you're serious about the election and wanting to come up in the next election, you have to go to court. Some people have that mindset, though.
No, but if we had a president that didn't have that mindset, shouldn't we learn from his example? He's the first president on record that called his opponent and conceded. Even his opponent, you understand, was not so magnanimous when he now got into government and was blaming the former party of all the wrongs in the country. The reason why many politicians, especially those that are incumbent, don't want to, concede is because they are looking at the future and say this person is going to deal with me. And that is what happens. And also to victors, that winner takes all mentality should be discarded with.
Right. I mean, elections are always considered a zero-sum game. There are no win-win situations with regards to politicians. Somebody has to lose for somebody else to win. But in talking about where we are right now and looking at how the results are gradually trickling in, with regards to the security of these elections, I mean, you have voter apathy on one side, which has influenced the low turnout in Imo, the vote buying situation in Kogi. I mean, how would you want Nigerians to rate the success or the challenges of this particular election from what we know so far? Because while some might decide to focus on some of those isolated incidents, some would look at, you know, how we've been able to avert the worst case scenario.
The Nigerian situation, the idea of success is always subjective. Yeah, so what you consider success may not be considered success by somebody else.
Right.
You understand? So, you know, the bottom line is, how are the elections conducted? At the end of the day, did you substantially deliver election results that will bring in a winner? That is INEC's headache. The INEC is not concerned about you rating whether the elections were successful.
Did they produce a winner?
Did they produce a winner?
Right.
You understand?
All right. So we'll just have to hold here at this point.
Because in the event that you say the elections were inconclusive, that's where you failed.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it here for now, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, the news at 4 comes
we're going to take a quick break.
Yes.
And the news will tell you a lot more about what's going on with the elections in Kogi, in Imo and Bayelsa states. Sumaya Abubakar will be joining you shortly at the top of the hour. Radia, are we coming back a bit later? Okay.
Only time will tell.
That is inconclusive. All right, so let's take a quick break. More on Trust TV about the off-cycle elections at the top of the hour.